The Concept OK Art in Oklahoma exhibit, we've been planning it a long time, and the idea is to give a new format for us to look at art that's being made in Oklahoma and try to see how that connects with art made in the region. And so we've invited different curators and different voices to kind of look at the art that's being made in Oklahoma and find some great ideas and great artwork and put it all into one big exhibition. Allison Hurst is a guest curator from Fort Worth. She works at the Fort Worth Modern, and she also does curatorial projects on the side. And she's an emerging curator who really has a good sense of what's being made now, trying to understand artists who may have performance in their work or may be doing something with unusual materials. And so she really approached the residency artists to try to understand their ideas. And she selected a Dallas-based artist to do a specific project in residence at the Hardesty Art Center. And so we think it's going to be really great to have two Oklahoma artists there creating new work and new projects, and then also this Dallas-based artist. So we can kind of see if there's commonalities in their ideas, and so they can get to know each other as well.
I am a visual artist incorporating photography and drawing and mixed media into my work. That sometimes takes the shape of sound, video, but specifically installation. I'm interested in the crossover between art and science, and specifically how information is disseminated through the sciences, and the relationship of visual art to that. So specifically, the past couple of years, my work has really focused on the relationship between scientific illustration and photography, and the different reasons that those are used. In some instances, scientists will have a photographer work with them on a project to get information that they couldn't get otherwise. And in other instances, specifically with things that are really small, scientists have artists render specific things so that people can see them on a larger scale and understand them. So they both have valid implications, and yet the public in general tends to view that information as fact, and I'm interested in the slippage between fact and fiction with those different mediums.
I was really interested in Sarah's proposal because I really liked the multidisciplinary aspect of her work. I liked how she merged science with art, and I really liked the participatory component of her project as well.
My project for Concept OK is called Symbiotic Cooperation, and it involves the study of lichen. Lichen is a symbiotic organism that's only capable of surviving between the relationship of a fungi and either a cyanobacteria or an algae. I picked lichen to work with because it sort of defies classification. If they were to actually reclassify what it is, it would deteriorate this whole system, the kingdom that we know of, the 7 different kingdoms of life. So I think that's pretty fascinating that something so small has so much power. In addition to that, the lichen was interesting because it can live in the most extreme places on Earth. So knowing that it could live in Death Valley, and it also lives in the Arctic tundra as well as Antarctica, places that are uninhabitable by most organisms, that was fascinating to me.
Lichen is a symbiotic organism, and in a way this project is very symbiotic because she's depending on people to help contribute to her research and inviting these people to come in and research.
Conceptually, I thought I would try to behave like lichen in the creation of my work, so I required public participation for the project to be a success, which is a little frightening as a control freak artist, but exciting too, because I feel like much greater things are possible when people work collectively than when they're working just on their own. So I issued a public call for participation for anyone who wanted to submit lichen from around the globe could. If they gave me a return mailing address, they received a work of art in exchange. The actual specimens will be on display. That's something important. I want people to be able to look at them and interact with them. They'll be able to look at them closely underneath the loupe. But one of the things in my discussion with Allison that I felt like was really important was to have the viewer feel overwhelmed by the presence of this thing that we so commonly ignore. So I decided to do a really large drawing. I did part of it in my studio, and part of it will be completed on site here at the Hardesty. And it's 44 inches wide by 72 inches long, and it's different types of lichen morphing from one kind to the next. And my hope is that the drawing and its scale and its detail will overwhelm the viewers. I also have a few large photographs that I intend to try to evoke that feeling as well. But with the drawing in particular, I will let participants influence what lichen I draw next. So if they come into the studio when I'm working and they find a particular specimen that they think is really beautiful, I might put it in the queue to start drawing that one as the next one in line for the morph. When I first visited her studio, what I loved so much about it was that it looked like a science laboratory. She had pieces of lichen all over butcher paper. She had little drawings next to certain samples. She had books everywhere trying to classify the different types and species that she had collected. An overarching theme in all the work that I do is the importance of classifying and organizing information. It's something that is part of my personality, but it sort of comes through in the artwork that I make. For symbiotic cooperation, the lichen that I'm receiving, it will be laid out on these large tabletops, and I have a roll of paper that I'll be laying them out on. I'll be making notations and doing little sketches with them, but I'm going to do my best to group them together by type. So different types submitted from elsewhere, if it's the same genus or the same species, I'm going to have those grouped together. So trying to make a little bit of sense out of the chaos, really. So although previously I had made work that dealt with the natural sciences, I had never actually worked with professionals in that field. In fact, I was a little worried that they might be dismissive of the work that I was doing or feel like in some way it threatened what they were doing. So with symbiotic cooperation, when I started collecting and cataloging the lichen, I realized I needed help and that there's so much to learn about it, and I don't have the knowledge base or the history to know it. So there's a local woman named Sheila Strawn who is a biologist and lichenologist, conveniently, and she's been working with me to help identify the different organisms. So I'm attempting to identify them myself and then getting them verified by her, and in the circumstances where I don't know. There's a possibility that we have a couple of species that we're not sure if they're morphs or if they're actually new species that we don't know about yet. So that's pretty exciting. Hopefully by the end of the exhibition we'll have a conclusion.